Hi, everyone. So I'm going to take a little bit of time to go over the PowerPoint on conspiracy theories with you. Now, as I mentioned in the week 5 announcement video, our textbook does not have a chapter on conspiracy theories. So I have sort of compiled a bit of sort of general introductory information about conspiracy theories just to sort of get the ball rolling. And then you will continue to learn about conspiracy theories with the additional resources that are listed under this video in the PowerPoint link. And I showed those in the week 5 announcement as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. First things first, what is a conspiracy theory? Because it's a term that sort of gets thrown around quite a bit. And you really have to stop and think like, okay, is the topic we're discussing, should it really be considered a conspiracy theory? And because what is a conspiracy theory? Let's look at both words that make up this term. So we have conspiracy. What is the definition of a conspiracy? Well, Michael Shermer, who is sort of an expert on conspiracy theories, he defines conspiracy as two or more people or a group plotting and acting in secret to gain an advantage or to harm others immorally or illegally, right? So a group of people plotting and acting together in unison, in secret, to gain an advantage or to harm others immorally or illegally. That is a conspiracy. It's really that group acting in secret and plotting, with sort of ill intent. That is sort of the cornerstone of a conspiracy. And then the word theory. Well, scientifically, the word theory is a plausible or scientifically acceptable general principle or body of principles offered to explain phenomena, a well-substantiated explanation of an aspect of the nature of the natural world that can incorporate laws, hypotheses, and facts. So a theory in terms of sort of the scientific method, right? That's what theory is. But does that definition match up with what we think of when we hear the term conspiracy theory? A theory is also an unproved assumption, conjecture, speculation, an untested hunch, a guess without supporting evidence. Can you guess which definition of theory applies to the term conspiracy theory? Most likely that second definition, an unproved assumption, conjecture, speculation, an untested hunch, a guess without supporting evidence. Okay, now we have a really great definition of the whole term, both words put together. So a conspiracy theory are explanations for important events that involve secret plots by powerful and malevolent groups. Great way to sum it up. That's what a conspiracy is. Now, let's sort of take a moment here and understand that conspiracies are real. Even if a conspiracy theory in the popular culture form of the phrase, even if conspiracy theories can't be proven or they seem really outrageous and totally unbelievable, conspiracies are real. So there's nothing to say that anyone who thinks that a conspiracy is happening is just automatically wrong. Conspiracies are real. There are realistic conspiracies. For instance, people who think that big pharma prioritizes profits over the health of their consumers. that very well could be a real conspiracy. At the same time, are they plotting? Are they, or is that just the nature of capitalism and business and human nature to some extent? Or that business people and politicians want to rig the economy in favor of the wealthy? Well, I mean, again, think about that definition of a conspiracy theory, which is that the group responsible is acting and plotting in secret. I'm not sure that these conspiracies about big pharma and business people and politicians, I'm not sure they're so secretive, right? But they very well could be conspiracies in a general sense. Then we have our paranoid conspiracies. For instance, that the US government is run by alien lizards posing as humans, or even that there's like sort of a world government that's run by alien lizards posing as humans. And it's real, it's out there that people believe this. Or that the Democrats here in America are and not even just based on politics, but people in Hollywood are cannibalistic pedophiles who harvest the blood of children for its psychedelic and life-extending benefits. Okay, so those are more in line with what we typically think of when we hear the term conspiracy theory. But that is not to say that these realistic conspiracies are just as outlandish. We have sort of a spectrum, as with many things in life. Conspiracies happen, and then even some conspiracy theories have been proven to be true. And we keep going and going and going till we get to the type of conspiracy theories that gain traction but don't seem to have any sort of foundation in reality. Right? Okay. Now, who is likely to believe in conspiracy theories? All right. So in the past, a lot of people have assumed that conspiracy theories sort of only circulated among the mentally ill and unstable, or like low functioning people on the outskirts of society, right? The people who wear their tinfoil hats and cover up their windows and, just that sort of stereotypical caricature of a conspiracy theorist. But that's really not true. Conspiracy theories sort of permeate all levels of society. And even rational people can ascribe to conspiracy theories. In fact, numerous studies have shown that at least 50% of Americans believe in at least one conspiracy theory. There's also this thing where, some people go all in on the conspiracy theory and all of its details, every facet of it, they buy in. And then there are other people who are like, I don't know if I believe all of that. I don't really see evidence for all of that, but I will admit that perhaps there could be something more to the story than what we've been told. Right? I don't know. Does that count as believing in a conspiracy theory? Because I think a lot of Americans are like that. Like, yeah, I'm too distrustful of government. I'm too distrustful of this group or that group to say, oh no, that would never happen. But at the same time, I would need more evidence to say, oh yeah, every single part of this theory is true. Or is it more like, I don't know if all that's true, but I could see maybe something shady going on. I don't know. Does that count as believing in a conspiracy theory? I would like to know more about this study that came up with that 50% of Americans believe in at least one conspiracy theory. Right? But rational individuals, they're not immune to believing in conspiracy theories. It happens all the time. In fact, conspiracy theories also cut across demographics and politics. So looking at politics, so many people on the left, right, the liberal side of American politics, they assume that conspiracy theories are mostly right-wing conservative phenomena. And I do think, at least recently, that is in part because of QAnon, but I think even long before our most recent conspiracy theories, I think that was still an assumption that for a long time now, politically speaking, the more liberal side of America assumed that conspiracy theories were only circulating among, the far right. But, the individuals on the political left, they have been pretty vocal about some conspiracy theories themselves, especially that, 9/11 was an inside job. Anything with the GMO conspiracies, they bought into that too. So we like to think of one side or the other as being more prone to believing in conspiracy theories, but there's not much evidence to show that there's a big difference. It's pretty equal. Also, education. We think that the more educated individuals are, the less likely they are to believe in conspiracy theories. But studies show that 1 in 5 Americans with master's degrees and PhDs believe in conspiracy theories. So it runs the gamut. It is not just this little fringe group on the outskirts of society that, people didn't really pay much attention to. Conspiracy theories weave their way through our culture, regardless of age, regardless of demographics, regardless of education, regardless of political leanings. They're everywhere. All right. Now, why are people so likely to believe in conspiracy theories? Well, like I mentioned before, the fact is, sometimes conspiracies do happen, and sometimes the people at the heart of these conspiracies happen to be individuals at high levels of government or trusted organizations and institutions. There is that old saying that absolute power corrupts absolutely. And we wouldn't have that adage if there wasn't some amount of truth to it. So of course, people at high levels of power, or whatever that power might look like, there's always going to be a chance of some sort of conspiracy or some sort of plot that is intended in a malicious manner. So but here's the thing. When a real conspiracy is uncovered, most of the time, we come to learn that conspiracy did not go according to plan. It was not a perfectly executed plan. Conspiracies are real things living in a real world, being orchestrated and executed by real people. So of course, this plan, this plot is going to be affected by chance. It's going to be affected by coincidence, right? There's hardly ever a deep-rooted, organized, carefully executed, perfect plot the way that most conspiracy theorists think there is. They think that this powerful group is plotting in secret and everything is moving like clockwork, just as they expected, right? There might be a conspiracy that people are trying to make happen, and maybe by luck, it actually comes to fruition, they succeed, but it's so messy in reality, right? But conspiracy theorists, they tend to think that nothing happens by accident, everything is connected, and there's no such thing as coincidence. When you have those beliefs, when you really subscribe to those beliefs, that nothing happens by accident, everything is connected, and there's no such thing as coincidence, then it, you know, you're more likely to think that conspiracy theories are fully real. But most conspiracy theories involve way too many people. There's no way that many people could all act in unison so effectively and covertly over time. There's going to be people whose moral compulsions make them disrupt the process. They're gonna realize that what's going on is wrong. Maybe they get a chance to be a whistleblower. Maybe they get unalived, if you want to go the conspiracy theory route. There's going to be slip-ups and mistakes made. There's going to be leaks. There's going to be defections where people just, sort of go to the opposite side. There's just, the more people involved in anything, the harder it is to keep things so streamlined and close to the chest, whether it's a conspiracy or anything else. That's why organizations and governments, they have a smaller group of individuals making decisions and putting policies into action, because the more people you have at the table, the more chaotic it is. Why wouldn't the same thing be true for a secret plot, to execute some sort of conspiracy? Like, why, the more people involved, the less likely it is to be a true conspiracy theory, because it would likely have been exposed pretty quickly. Like, it wouldn't have gotten to the point where people were wondering if this was really happening. We would only know about it because, it fell apart so early in the process that then we're like, oh, we didn't even know that was happening. Well, it's because they barely got any work done on their plot, and it all fell apart. Too many people, right? Things never go as planned, but conspiracy theories rely on the misguided idea that things always go as planned, and that's how the conspirators continue to get away with their bad actions. That is really not how the world works. Things never go as planned, right? So, looking further at why people believe in conspiracy theories, we have some research that sort of breaks this down into three very broad reasons. We have what is called proxy conspiracism. So this is where the conspiracy theory is actually a proxy or a substitute for other types of underlying truths, right? So this is sort of what I meant when I said, that 50% of Americans believe in at least one conspiracy theory. Like, well, what does that actually mean? Does that mean that 50% of Americans fully believe, go all in on at least one conspiracy theory? Or is it more like, well, I don't know if all of that is true, but yeah, I kind of think there's more to that story. I kind of think something shady was going on. Because that's kind of what proxy conspiracism is. The particular details of the theory really don't matter. It's the deeper truth represented in the theory that matter most, right? For example, one might believe that alien lizards disguised as humans are running the country, but the details of how this is possible aren't really the point. The point is that the conspiracy taps into an underlying truth that this person does not trust the government, right? That's why sometimes, it can go both ways. Like, someone's like, well, I don't believe all of those elements of this conspiracy theory, but I think some of them are true. Or the other side of it is you have someone who goes all in and says, yes, every single detail of this is true. I am a full believer. And the truth is, they don't really care if any of those details are true. It's just the fact that this conspiracy theory taps into an underlying truth that that person already believes in or already feels. Then we also have tribal conspiracism. This is another reason why people are likely to believe, and that is really just signaling loyalty to your in-group. This is why you can have, let's say, politicians, where you can have, let's say there's a fringe element of a political party that is, sort of touting a particular conspiracy theory. And the other members of that political party, they may not fully believe, they may not really know, even have done much research on this conspiracy theory. Maybe they fully disagree with it, but they will ascribe to the conspiracy theory and say they believe it simply as a sign of loyalty to their party, right? So any kind of loyalty to your in-group, and it doesn't have to be politics, right? Whoever your in-group is, that you consider yourself a member of, those like you, right? Us versus them. Who is your us? You will more, these people with tribal conspiracism, they are more likely to believe in the conspiracy theory simply because the rest of their group does. So they will too, as a sign of loyalty, right? Those are the two I wanted to focus on. All right. So more reasons to why people will believe in conspiracy theories. All right. So a conspiracy theory is comforting. I know that seems weird, but conspiracy theorists find comfort and community in an easy story that portrays their reality as a simple fight of good versus evil. When you look at the world through that lens, everything is simple. Because the reality is that the world is very complex, chaotic, and messy. So if you can view the world as something that's much simpler, much easier to understand, and even if, good versus evil and evil is winning, it's still a very simple story to wrap your head around. And you know that as long as you keep fighting on the good side, eventually evil will be defeated, right? But, conspiracy theories, they tell you that the world is simple, predictable, and that there are answers to our problems. But only if you're in on the secret. Only if you're smart enough to figure out the signs. Only if you're not a sheeple. People seem to like the simplicity of this message, that if you're in on the secret and you're not a sheeple, then you'll see what's really going on, and it is just a simple story of good versus evil, and we got to keep putting up the good fight so we can take down those damn evildoers. They like that simplicity, and they like the moral superiority they feel from having that belief. Hence the ad hominem of sheeple. Sheeple, following the flock, not thinking for yourself, just accepting what is told to you, doing what you're told to do. Okay. There's some other reasons why people are likely to believe in conspiracy theories. And this is where some of your research will come into play as you work on essay number 1. So back early in the term, first week, we learned about different barriers to critical thinking. People who have those barriers, are they more likely to believe in conspiracy theories? What about those cognitive and perceptual errors in thinking? What about social errors and biases? What about not being able to recognize informal fallacies? What about not being able to recognize faulty inductive and deductive arguments? We've learned about these concepts. You need to start thinking about, are any of these reasons, possible reasons, why someone would be more likely to go all in on a conspiracy theory? Because that right there, that's where the answer is. All of the things we've learned about being a good critical thinker, things we've learned that can disrupt being a good critical thinker, and all the ways to evaluate an argument, those are going to come in handy when you're looking at conspiracy theories. Okay? So some other reasons why people believe in conspiracy theories, sometimes they're just fun, sometimes it's just entertainment, you know, and so people believe in these things, and you know, they don't like let it rule their life or affect their decisions or whatever. It's just kind of a fun thing to talk about. I'll give you one example, is this belief that this conspiracy theory that Paul McCartney of the Beatles actually died back in the 60s and they replaced him with a body double, and that the Beatles left clues in some of their lyrics and album artwork to show us that Paul had been replaced. Now, this is one of those conspiracy theories where, for the most part, it's not a dangerous one. At least I don't think that any like big problems or scary things have happened over this conspiracy theory. But it, you know, and so it's not like affecting people's lives. They're not out protesting. They're not out being vocal about it. It's just when it comes up in conversation, it's like, oh yeah, it's totally dead, totally replaced by a body double. Here, look at this album. Here, look at these lyrics. And they can get really excited and passionate about it. But then when the conversation's over, they go back to their everyday life. So sometimes believing in certain conspiracy theories is just fun, right? Conspiracy theories can also attract people who rely on intuition and gut feeling rather than evidence-based rational thinking, because it's that I just know something's not right. Well, okay, but what evidence supports that? Don't need evidence. I just know something's not right, right? I just know that this is happening. Sadly, that's not solid evidence. Of course, the internet and social media provide easy access to and quick proliferation of conspiracy theories. So that is probably one thing that could add to why people are likely to believe in them. If we're seeing them, if we're being exposed to them more often, and especially on social media platforms where, depending on the platform, a lot of what you're coming across is being shared by friends and family, people you know, people you love, people you trust, right? So if you're coming across conspiracy theory information in that way on social media, that could definitely influence someone, right? Societal stress makes people more prone to believing in conspiracy theories. And again, you think back to that idea of how conspiracy theorists want to see the world in very simple terms. They don't want to admit that it's messy and chaotic and unpredictable. They want to view it through something that is very simple. And even if things aren't going their way, that, you know, they know who the bad guy is and who needs to be, you know, stood up against, right? When you add societal stress to that, it exacerbates it. So the whole pandemic has been something that has really just made people unstable. And I don't mean mentally unstable, I mean lives unstable. So that is one reason why people might be more prone to believe in conspiracy theories, any kind of political instability. And, I don't know that we have political instability like countries that are on the brink of war or, government collapse or whatnot. But I mean, I think we have a good bit of political strife in our country. Economic insecurity can make people more prone to believe conspiracy theories. War and culture wars. Culture wars is when there is cultural anxiety about erosion of cultural values. So in our country, some of the more recent culture wars that we have experienced is same-sex marriage being legal. That was a huge battle in the culture wars. They so many things, little things up to big monumental things. But when one group or several groups feel like their way of life is being threatened, that their values are being threatened, that is what we would term a culture war. And it can make people prone to believe in conspiracy theories as well. So I hope that sort of explains why perfectly rational, intelligent people can find themselves believing in conspiracy theories. And I hope it also kind of helps explain why, that again, that spectrum of conspiracy theories that, some are easier to believe and then some go into the land of disbelief. And our job, I guess, as consumers is to try to figure out where on the spectrum any given theory lies, and what do we think about it? Right. So next, I want to take a look real quick at some of the more popular conspiracy theories here in America throughout the decades. You're going to see this list again when you look at the instructions for essay number 1, because these are the choices that I have given you to choose from for the conspiracy theory that you want to research and write about for essay number 1. Now, I talk about this list a little more in the instruction for essay number 1. So if you're looking at this slide and you're like, I don't want to do any of these, I address that in the instructions for essay 1. Okay. But the ones that I thought that people might have the most success with are the flat earther theories. They've been around since the 1950s, where world is flat. The JFK assassination, the Martin Luther King Jr. assassination, the moon landing hoax, the satanic panics of the 1980s, the fact that, or the theory that vaccines cause autism, which you may find some stuff on it before 98, but 98 was when the study came out. That has since been debunked. 9/11 truthers, that 9/11 was an inside job. Chemtrails, that we're being poisoned. The Sandy hook was a hoax. Birds aren't real. That's an actual thing. That's a newer one. Not everybody's heard of that. QAnon, which is that what was mentioned at the beginning of the PowerPoint, that Democrats and Hollywood elite are cannibalistic pedophiles who drink the blood of babies for their psychedelic and life extending benefits, and that they are operating child sex trafficking rings out of the basements of pizza parlors. Then our last one is COVID. Now, there are several conspiracy theories associated with COVID. I will let you know right now that if you decide to go that route for essay number 1, you will need to choose just one of the conspiracies surrounding COVID. Okay? You can see we go all the way back to 1950s, all the way up to today. A lot going on in there. I feel like some of these lend themselves to the essay more than the others. I think the JFK assassination is, and even Martin Luther King Jr. assassination would be ridiculously interesting, but also ridiculously overwhelming. So I put them on there because, especially if you're someone who has already been doing research on either of them, then you may have a bit of a head start. But if you really have never looked into the conspiracies surrounding the assassinations of these two men, I'm not sure it would be a good idea to pick them for this topic because it's massive. And you just have time constraints. But I'm not going to tell you not to. Just giving you a heads up. I think flat earthers, moon landing, and chemtrails, and maybe birds aren't real. Those kind of fall into, those might be pretty easy to do. I feel like there's going to be some good evidence being used on both sides. I think, and I just think those would be good ones. The satanic panic of the 1980s, that's a super cool one too. Very interesting. The 9/11 truthers, that kind of goes up with JFK and Martin Luther King. Super interesting, massive though. So keep that in mind. Vaccines cause autism and Sandy Hook. I think those would be pretty good also. I think you're going to find good information all around. QAnon, that's going to be a little trickier because it's so recent. And so with that one, it's really more about looking at the sources, finding credible sources. And I don't mean credible sources to like refute the QAnon theory. I actually mean credible sources that explain the conspiracy theory correctly. Like, what do these people actually believe? What do they actually think? What evidence are they using? I'm not sure we can trust other sources out there to even give us an accurate overview of the QAnon conspiracies. But if you happen to know how to do that, then this is a really interesting one simply because it is so recent. It is still entrenched in parts of our culture, and it infiltrated the election. It's a big one. Could even take it to the January 6th incident on the Capitol, right? It was pretty big. And COVID, I think that's going to be, as long as you stay focused on just one conspiracy associated with COVID, I think that one is actually a pretty good one because you're going to find information on all perspectives. It's going to be easy. It'll be super easy, I think. I mean, I don't mean easy. It's going to take time, but I think it's going to be easy in terms of the availability of research. So, all right, but we will talk more about those in the instructions for essay number 1. And there's others that aren't on here, right? There's plenty of others that aren't on here. So these are the ones I have chosen. You are not going to be bound to them and only them. Get through the instructions in essay number 1, and if you want to run another idea by me, please do so. Okay? All right, so very brief lesson here. So now you are going to take the wheel and you are going to dive deeper into conspiracy theories. So remember, below this video is the link to the PowerPoint, right there. And then I've got the 2 articles And then the video with Neil deGrasse Tyson and Michael Shermer. I really cannot, this is a good one to watch. And then our 6-part series on conspiracy theories. I feel like if you're choosing anything COVID related, you definitely want to watch number 6. But everybody should watch 1 through 5 if you can. Let's see, that's like 38 minutes, 39 minutes, 40, also about 40. I was thinking, it seems like they're each about 40 minutes long, give or take a few minutes on either side. This one here that I really want you to watch is about an hour. It's great. All right, so work those into your schedule. And again, I would start here with these additional resources before you start researching your chosen conspiracy theory, because you really want to make sure that you have a foundational understanding of conspiracy theories in general before you get specific and narrow in on one particular theory, right? Okay. So, yeah, go ahead and plan out how you're going to tackle this over the next 2 weeks, this week and week 6. Maybe go ahead and look at the instructions for assignment 1 if you haven't yet. Watch the video in the assignment instructions. And then make sure that you come back to this lesson and look at the other resources I've provided before you start doing your research on your conspiracy theory. Okay? All right. If you have questions or run into any problems, definitely reach out. And this is a weird week, so definitely reach out. Like at any point along the way, if you have questions about the essay itself, if you have questions about conspiracy theories in general, if you're not sure what conspiracy theory to choose, if you want to choose a different one, if you're not sure how to get started, just reach out. Okay? I will do whatever I can to assist you. Otherwise, you guys are ready to go ahead and move on.